Confirmation. Freelancer Codex podcast. Your host, Steven, and co-hosts Mike, Devon, and JD are all set. Join us and tweet your questions at Freelancer Codex. Find us on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com. Strap into your javelins, and let's drop in.
Welcome, freelancers, to episode 101 of the Freelancer Codex podcast, the longest running podcast on the internet. In all of
the longest running Anthem podcast, not the longest running podcast.
Is that what I said?
You did say that.
So when we hit 101, we figured like it's time to just give up. Who cares? Yeah, we're probably not the longest running podcast. I think Major Nelson always says that they're like the longest running podcast ever. Even though like Major Nelson, anytime he records, it's like, 6 months in between recording. So I don't know if he can really say that, It's just like, yeah,
Well,
but I mean, I listened to a
that's-
daily podcast that's on at like 1700. So
Well, yeah, and it depends on what your definition of longest running. I mean, if you do a podcast once a year for, 27 years, then that's 27 years worth of podcasts.
it's true. I guess you would have to figure out like the origin and like when did podcasts actually start? I mean, I guess they started calling them podcasts when the iPod came out, because it's like, oh, it's on your iPod. Man, imagine like a world without the
Is that
iPod.
where that came from?
Yeah, that's where pod came from.
Really?
Yeah, because you had a
I thought it was referencing a pot of whales.
Yeah, that's so you cast in your net to catch a pot of whales. So they're like, a bunch of fishermen were talking, and we're like, we talk all the time when we cast these nets to catch these pods.
No,
Podcast
no,
when we talk.
The whales comes from like the sounds that they make, and the pot of whales just casting sounds, and people can listen or people can't, and it's to each his own kind of thing.
Who the hell are you?
I think my version is better.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what to say. I've got nothing. What can you say about such men? So this is not a special episode, obviously. This is just episode 101. After you do 100, you can just phone it in and you can start releasing podcasts. It's like, okay, so who else is gonna, make 101 episodes talking about Anthem? No one, obviously. We're the only ones. I mean, if people have tried to come close, I guess. But anyway, we're here. And you know why we're here? I'll tell you why we're here. First, because we have an awesome community that continues to support us. They continue to say, hey, we, for some reason, like it when you talk about this game, and we want you to keep doing it. So Iron Aquila became a patron this week, and so did... So I don't know how to say Socket. I think it's Socket69. I've played with Socket a bunch of times. We run a lot of the Cataclysm with Alaska. Great freelancer. But I don't know SAKUT, Socket69, Sakut. I don't know. I'm terrible with pronunciation. But we we never talk. We've never had to talk. It's always been
In sync.
And
So in sync.
I have actually played a lot of the Cataclysm with a bunch of the community members, and we don't need to talk. We can just get it done, unlike playing with you guys, where there's a lot of struggles. But other than that, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
we will fix the struggles that we have running the Cataclysm. But seriously, the community is amazing. Thank you guys for becoming patrons. It means a ton to us for a podcast that is just like, hey, let's get on, let's talk. You showing us that support is amazing. If anyone else would like to support us, they can do that at patreon.com/freelancercodex. Julius Devon says they cannot hear you in the chat. So I wonder if, Jai, can you hear everyone over on the mixer side? Maybe
check it now. This should be able to hear me now. I updated the software and it reset my microphone. It changed to a different microphone, so yeah. Good times on YouTube.
When that happened. Especially because it's like I just breathed on it, so Julius can hear you now. So thank you to all the people that are over in our chat listening. Thanks for hanging out with us. Jai is here for the first time. He can hear everyone, so it's great to have you all here. So if you want to support us, you can do that at patreon.com/freelancercodex. You can pitch in whatever you want. If you want to throw, $20 our way a month, you can do that. If you want to throw in I think the minimum is $1. So if you want to throw in $1, support us, do that also. We appreciate everything that you guys give to us, and we just hope to give back by being entertaining and talking about whales, apparently. So also
The podcast
Dude,
whales.
don't knock the whales. So I watched a show one time about whales.
Oh my gosh, I know what show you
You
watch.
think they have whales in Anthem?
They have turtles.
Well,
They've
that's
got
true. They
turtles.
do have turtles.
Do you think they
Giant-
call them turtles?
So that was actually my question, because it's very possible. Like when we first saw the turtles, and I tweeted it out to Mike Gamble, he's like, "Oh, you found the turtle." It's like, okay, so did this get transported from another world? Because that is the turtle comes directly from from our world,
Right.
and everything else over there has two tails, and that turtle definitely does not have two tails. So it's
Does
got to
not
be a
look
turtle.
mutated. Yeah,
No,
it's an earth
Cliff
turtle.
had to have brought it in. So
That's the only
I
logical
thought you-
explanation.
I thought you were going to continue with your whale story.
I am gonna continue with my whale
I
story.
keep trying to
So,
cut him off so we don't have to keep going there.
What's wrong
Hey.
with my whales? You guys never let me talk. It's okay. Go
Please
ahead.
tell me your whale story, or do you
No.
want to save it for later?
No, go ahead. Go
Your
ahead.
whale story for later.
It's whatever.
You were gonna talk about I forget what was that show called? Whale Hunters, Whale Survivor,
Whale Wars.
Whale
Watcher.
Watchers?
Whale
Whale
Wars.
Wars. Yeah, it was where
Whale
they're
Wars.
the activists,
because
try and go
boring,
stop the big
yes.
whaling ships.
Yeah, Greenpeace.
Yeah.
You give a 19-year-old a giant ship, and what is he gonna do with it? Anyway,
Oh,
gonna-
let's,
all right.
let's get focused. Here we go.
And you
Okay,
guys
another
say
thing that
I
we
have
can do-
problems. I'm the one on medication, not you guys. All right.
You do have problems. You have problems.
Okay.
Many problems.
Stop.
Steven, are you
We
gonna
will
get
focus.
centered here? Come on, dude.
I hope so much. Okay.
It's not gonna happen, is it? We apologize for the beginnings of episode 101. We thank
Okay.
you all for being with us this long. It's
Okay,
been
stop. I
fun.
got it. I got it back. I'm like Jimmy Fallon in
Focus.
SNL. I've got it.
He
All
doesn't
right.
have it. No, you
shut
don't
up.
got it. Get
Shut
it?
up. Oh my gosh. All right. So, guys, shut up and respond. Shut up.
So these whales, right? They don't have teeth. They eat krill. They're the largest animal.
Oh my
animals?
gosh.
Mammals?
It's off the
This
rails.
is the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet. We have started a new show called Shut Up and Respawn. If you go to shutupandrespawn.com, it is posted there. Episode 2 just went up this week, where we talk about the game For the King, which is a game by an indie developer. Go check that out. If you support us here, if you enjoy the banter, if you enjoy whale talk, head over there and we can talk about a lot more things over there. So please do that. We appreciate everyone that's here. Thank you for, surviving this opening of episode 101. All right. So news that has happened. Really only 2 new things have happened in the Anthem realm. We have a new event in the Cataclysm. So they opened up. So we decided that we're in week number 4 of the Cataclysm.
We decided that.
Yeah, we did just now. Brian from Hit Start Gaming, welcome. So they opened up the Crucible of Astrid. I call it Astrid for some reason. I don't know why I have that stuck in my head, but it's Astrid. So this is the 6th event that they've opened up. We only have one more event that's going to go live next week. And with this week's update, we have the new event that we will talk about. But also, I think that more importantly, we received weapon war chests this week.
Indeed.
And 9 new weapons. So there's 9 new legendary weapons and the masterworks that go with those also. So we're going to talk about that. So Devon, can you give us a rundown? Because during the PTS, this is an event that I normally did not do. I would go do a different event while other people were completing this one. So I didn't have a lot of experience with the Crucible of Astrid. Can you give us a breakdown on this event? This event we also call the laser, because there's a giant effing laser.
Yeah, you have to
in
use
this-
2 different lasers in this event, right? So, it's basic. So as you go in, there's a shield. It's not really a shield, but what do we call those? Since they block, they make your echoes disappear, right? So I mean, it doesn't shield you from going in or block you. The gateway. I don't.
So the first thing you got to understand is there's a shield, but it's not really a shield.
What is the word I'm looking for here?
A force field?
Force
A
field?
wall?
No.
Yeah, a field. It's a field.
No, Faye
A
calls it
barrier?
or a
Yeah,
barrier. I think
A barrier.
Faye
Okay.
calls
barrier?
Yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah.
there's a barrier, and behind that barrier, there's 4 echoes that you're gonna need to complete the puzzle. Right. So you get in there. You need to grab an echo that's over by the other barriers. Right. Take it from there and put it over by the laser, which will then turn it and open up the other barrier with the 4 echoes. So what you have to do is you get those echoes, and you have to take all those echoes in past the other 2 barriers. So this really takes 3 people to do it, because you need to have 2 people on the inside of the puzzle. I mean, I guess technically, if you have 2 of the weights in there, 1 interceptor or a storm could do the inside by themselves.
I've tried it in that the plate actually takes a little bit longer to activate. So I think you're right. You need a minimum of 3.
Well,
Like 4
because
is but minimum of 3.
yeah, well, when we go in there, I always do 2 plates as the interceptor, and like have the other person just standing there. But if we just put the second weight on there, I could do it by myself. So
Gotcha.
there's 2 weights on the outside, and you could basically take them in, set them on the pressure plates, and then you have to, once you have all 4 echoes in there, there's a laser that you're trying to activate, and you do that by activating all 4 of the pressure plates.
It's not a laser. It's a little light bulb that blinks.
Sure.
What's with him?
But then it goes out there, and you have to turn it on. There's a switch, basically, right there. It's a big icon that shows you where to go do it. Brings it up, it breaks it, and then you can just kill the crystal there. It's not very difficult.
No, it's not very difficult, but you do definitely need people that know what they're doing and a little bit more communication, because I don't think this puzzle is as like innately intuitive as the others are. The others, you can kind of look at them and see, okay, this goes here, this goes here. And maybe it's just because I haven't spent a lot of time with him. I mean, do you think this is one of the easier puzzles, Devon, or do you think this is one of like on the more difficult side?
I think it's easy, one of the easier ones. Obviously, the first time you're going through, because you've already gone through other puzzles with barriers and those kind of things, you should have an understanding of how to complete it, right? Because this is the 4th week, right? That's what we decided earlier. This is the 4th week.
Yeah.
We've already gone through 2 different puzzles that have similar barriers or obstacles that you have to go through and accomplish. And they're just kind of combining multiple pieces from different puzzles into the one puzzle, which is fine. But I think it's actually a really easy one to do. I mean, if you have 3 people, obviously one person can just be mopping up the ads, and you can have another person. Because if you're in the Cataclysm and you're trying to get the most score, you're going to be splitting up, because you need to be doing more than one thing at one time. It just doesn't leave you enough time to get everything done that you want. Obviously, when all the events are in there, you'll have more time. You got another event coming up next week, which I enjoy that one.
Yeah, and I think as they add more and more of these, there's been a lot of talk about, hey, you know, these are too hard to complete without a group, without communication. I think because of the way that the Cataclysm is structured, if you are continuing to play throughout the whole event, I would hope that as you run with certain groups where you're like, hey, this was a really good run, these people knew what they were doing, you know, maybe be able to reach out to those groups, send them a message, say, hey, you know, add me on your friends list. This is if we're running at the same time now, chances are you'll run at the same time in the future. Like, create those groups of good players. Because I mean, I understand that it could be really frustrating going in and playing with people that don't exactly know. And there are definitely people that go in to just farm the first chest for legendaries on Grandmaster 3 and then leave. And then there's people that are a little bit under leveled, that I don't know if they think that going in will increase their chances of getting better gear to level up quicker. So they go in expecting a team of 3 to kind of carry them. So those are a couple frustrating things. But I think if you played enough times, you'll find these groups and you'll find these people that you work well together without having to communicate too much. And I know this is just like, people are like, well, there should be communication. We shouldn't have to jump through these hoops. I mean, you know, World of Warcraft Classic launched today or this week, and you look back and you remember like how communication was in that game. And if, you know, people managed to get 40 people together to take down Onyxia, you know, back then. I mean, we can get 3 people in a group to take on a Cataclysm, I think.
Right.
But Team up with people. There's a couple of guides online. You can look at YouTube and just look up Crucible of Astrid event. Ruby Javelin has some great write-ups over on the EA forums, and those are the write-ups that we've been using kind of to go through the Cataclysm. So there's a lot of good ways to get that information and figure out what to do. Like, I don't expect people to go in for the first time and know what to do. I just don't. Usually I'll go in, and if it looks like people are, headed that way, I'll go with them. If they are avoiding that area, most likely it means that they don't feel comfortable doing that. So we'll just go, you take a little bit of hit on the crystals, but you at least complete the event and you get, at least you come out with some crystals instead
Right.
of trying to, bang your head against a wall, because you can't do that one solo. So, I mean, you kind of get what you get and you don't throw a fit.
Nice.
So, and that's news. Then I think we'll talk a little bit more about the weapons later on. But the other big news that we had is the statue that we talked about a while ago that was shown off during one of the trade shows, the 1/6 scale statue of the Ranger. That is actually going to be released in the future. And that's from 30 Blog. I think that's who's making it. And those are right now, currently, it says that it's coming soon. And the prices on a lot of their other products are around $200, $250. So I'm guessing that's going to kind of be the price,
Similar price point.
a similar price point. So I'm kind of excited for this. I'm definitely going to be picking one up because, I mean, the javelins are super, super awesome looking. And I'm excited to have, a statue of it. So when that comes out, we'll let people know. And then maybe we'll do like an unboxing or a little review of a statue. Because you know what? I kind of enjoy statues. I have a bunch of giant robots in my office at work. I'm kind of in an industry where people look at me weird for having that kind of stuff. But I'm like, whatever, dude. You have your boring pictures. You have your pictures of deer.
Pictures of your kids. You have your pictures of your kids. I've got my statues.
I also have pictures of my kids. They're just behind the giant statues.
They're hidden behind the statues.
All right, so I want to talk about some tips. So we have a community member, Tarva Random, is actually not native English speaker, and I talked to Tavara Random on Discord and kind of asked if they would want to come on and talk about the Cataclysm, because he's actually running a guild on the PC that they have a bunch of members are generally in the top ranks of the Cataclysm. So they're usually on the top of the boards. I think this week, I'd have to look. I haven't looked to see where they're ranking now, but last week I think they were in the top 10. And the first week their guild actually made the top of the leaderboard. So they have a lot of, I was asking, like what are you doing in order to get these high scores? Because for a lot of people, if you're not playing with a group, it's kind of hard to do that. So a couple of tips that Tavar Random gave is, as much as you can, don't pop the bubble that kills your multiplier. Even if you're going to go down, if you're with a group, they can just come res you and pick you up. And that takes a shorter amount of time to get you back up and popping the bubble and having to wait. I think it's almost a minute before the bubble comes before it comes back. I've never timed it before the ball comes back because they generally don't have to worry about it. So, have someone res you before you pop the bubble. Respawn yourself into the nearest safety bubble if you need to do that, because that, that's still probably going to take less than a minute. For you to go respawn and then come back and do what you're doing instead of losing that multiplier, because every little bit helps when you're going for that high score. Even if you're killing some ads, like, that 20 points, eventually it's going to be a lot higher than that. And if you keep shooting the bubble and losing that multiplier, your score is going to go down. You're not going to hit those top ranks. So if you want to hit the top ranks, try to manage that in a couple different ways instead of, I'm getting really low, shoot the bubble. Because I don't know if a lot of people know this, is that our battery packs that we have, it's not all the same across all 4 javelins in the event, right? So Devon's battery could be completely full while mine is completely gone, just because you've been picking up orbs, you've been shooting all the ads and getting it that way, or you've been inside of the safety bubble. So if I feel like, I'm going down, it's like, well, that doesn't mean that everyone else around you is going to go down. I could go down, you res me, back up, and then we're good to go.
Exactly.
Me shooting the bubble, all it does is, we waste a minute of multiplication time.
Well, that's what it does. It kills the multiplier.
Right. So do whatever you can to not do that. And it's not, there's no penalty for going down, right? If there's someone, I mean, if you're with a group of randoms, with the icons now indicating when people are down, they'll probably come res you. So, be patient, try not to shoot it. Don't lose that multiplier. Couple other hints there, there are a couple different ways, and I need to talk to him about this because there's different ways to kill the Valkyries outside of the bubble after you spawn them. These are things that I still need to figure out to push those higher levels, but there are ways to kill the Valkyries and manage, like, if you're shooting the Valkyrie outside of the bubble, your multiplier is going up. I think that the interceptors have an easier time of doing this with their abilities, from what I've been told. So I really need to go in and figure all that out. So a couple of little hints and tricks, all the elementals that are around the map, kill the elementals. Wait till the end, but kill the elementals. Like, by the time you're at 12 times multiplier, they're worth 600 points each. Like, it's a lot of points, and they're everywhere. Like, take the time, kill them, especially when you're collecting echoes on echo plates. There's a lot of points there. All the bombs and all the rocks. Learn the locations. There's an orange note inside each of those, and those are worth a ton of points. So, figure out where those things are, find them, have a couple people, working on Vera while people are out there hunting for points, because you really need to manage that, that Vera time. Right now, it's a little bit easier to kill Vera because of the new weapons that we have are pretty powerful if you get really good rolls on them, and they do a lot of damage to Vera. So it seems like scores are even going to be getting better as people keep finding these new weapons. So just a couple different little tips and tricks. I mean, Mike, Devon, are there other little tips and tricks that you guys know of that I skipped out on that people should know?
There's also the plates that you can get another orange orb from, or note that you can get that. Make sure you do the Grab It King layer.
Make sure you kill all the Grabbits.
Get all the time extensions. Wait till the end to get those because they're worth more. When you do that. Yeah, and then just kind of know how to get around the map faster. Learn the teleporting routes, and don't go into those bubbles.
Yeah.
And if you need a map, if you don't know where to get a map, I mean, join our Discord, go to freelancercodex.com, click on their Discord link, go into there. We have a Cataclysm tab in there that has a map. It doesn't have the map currently. I do not have all of the bomb locations, but I have the majority of all the big point stuff. So if you know where those locations are, and if you say, hey, update this map, Steve, I'll go ahead and do that also. So there's a couple of tools and tips out there that you can use to pump up your score. And, by the end of the event, next week, we're going to have all 7 events open. I mean, we're going to be able to just bring in those crystals like crazy. Depending on what war chest they have open at the end of this event, I think that'll really, I really want them to open up every single war chest at the end of the event, because I did not get a legendary support, and I really want to have that opportunity to be like, all right, this is like the maximum time to farm crystals from this event, whether you do it on GM2 or GM3. You can rake in a lot of boxes that way, and having the opportunity at the end to be like, okay, I didn't get this from week number 2. I would like to get it now. I think that would go a long way to help players like feel like they're being rewarded for their time and not being punished for missing out on a week, because that's one thing that Devon, always says. It's like, we don't want to play on your time. So I think them opening up box every war chest at the end would kind of help mitigate that feeling of betrayal, right, Devon?
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, I don't know. They've talked about playing your own way, and then now it's, you have to play when we tell you can play, because if you don't, you're just gonna miss out. And so when they do those kind of things, I'm just like, well, fine, F you. No.
Is that what you say?
No, it really pisses me off when they're trying to dictate my time, because it's my time. When you're not, I mean, there's always still the choice. They're still giving you the choice, but when you have time limited, really time limited of only like a week, the Cataclysm is a time limited event, but it takes place for over a month and a half, right? So there's plenty of time to play, and but a week, it's like you could be gone or you could be doing something else, different things, and you have to play basically on their time when they're telling you. I like how like Sea of Thieves, they have time limited events, but those are a month. It's for a full month, so you know, okay, this is the amount of time that you have to get it, but everything that you can get is available that whole month. It doesn't just like split it into weekly things to make it worse. I know they're trying to do that to at least get us to play more often, is my opinion, or what I'm guessing they're doing, but that doesn't really help in my case, because it just pisses me off and makes me be like, all right, whatever. I'm not going to play.
Do you think a week is too short? Do you think a week is like if you were to say, hey, this is how we need to do this? I mean, what would you change?
I would just leave them in there for the entire event. I would add them in slowly. I mean, you don't have to have them the whole
All of
time
them at once,
but
right?
like once it goes in there, you leave it in there for the rest of that event. And so even on the very last one that they add in, you would still have 2 to 3 weeks, which is long enough, because I think a week's too short. 2 weeks, I think, is long enough
Maybe
that it's
too long.
it's not short enough that if you are busy that you can't get to it. 2 weeks still gives you enough time that you can at least try and get to it. I mean, 1 week, yes, you can still try and get to it, but people's lives are busy. We can't all play all the time. So
Right.
Yeah, because that's a tough balance, because you do want. I mean, Anthem's thing with their featured store, it's they want you to be like, oh, this is my 3-day window, or this is my 4-day window to go in here and get this thing. So that's kind of their draw. That's how they want to get people playing, right?
Mhm.
So
yeah,
because even if it's tough, because we don't know what's going to happen after this event. We don't know if the cataclysm just goes away for forever. I doubt that's what happens, but there's been no confirmation of that. There's
Yeah.
been no one saying, "Hey guys, we've got more after this." Because we went from the sunken cell until the cataclysm was how many days? I think it was, how many days was it?
Well, I don't even. I mean, it was long, wasn't it? It felt
Um,
a
long.
couple months.
I can actually tell you, because I have all this written down. So week 1 of the Cataclysm was 8/6/19, and then Sunken Cell was 4/23/09. So if we do math, this is like super awesome podcasting for episode 101.
We started
So
off strong.
what's 128 minus? So it's 105 days in between
Content.
Sunken Cell and Cataclysm.
Wow.
So that's what, 3.5 months?
Yep.
If
Yeah.
I do math correctly. So if
It's a long time.
yeah, so that really has, you kind of have to think of it in those terms, right? So if you're going to have a 6-week event and then you're not going to have anything for, we don't know, so this is all just speculation, and that's what we built our entire empire on, is speculation. So that's what is, it's tough to just be like, all right, now this is all going away, because I have actually had a lot of fun in the Cataclysm.
Yeah, it's very fun to play.
I enjoy playing it. I've played it a bunch with a couple of the community members. Playing with you guys has been a lot of fun. There's been some frustrations with war chests and stuff, but it's like, well, I don't want to go back to playing the Heart of Rage after this, right? Because
Yeah.
if this goes away, then that's what I'm doing, because I still need to get my Champion of Tarsus thing completed, and that's one of the easiest ways to do that, is to farm strongholds. So like knowing that, okay, if this is gone and that's what I have to go back to, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow.
Mhm.
Well, and
but
then
we'll
you
just-
have to. You have to wonder what are they gonna do, because right now you can't get that level 80 gear anywhere else. And
Correct.
so you have to play the Cataclysm. You have to play their loot box, RNG BS, and yeah. So it's like, I'd be fine if you had the opportunity for it to drop elsewhere, but it's also, we've discussed this before. But what are they going to do when it's over? That's just the whole thing. It's like they're not communicating what's going to happen, right? This should be more than enough time for them to communicate and tell us, okay, hey, we got 2 weeks left of the Cataclysm. This is what's going to happen after the Cataclysm,
Right.
Or maybe they're like, oh, there's story stuff, so we don't want to tell you about it, or so we don't want to spoil it. But I don't know. Even they haven't even dropped any like vague hints or what's going to happen after 2 weeks.
No, and that can be tough because if you really want to like, hey, we're in the middle of this event. Guess what's coming next? I mean, I can see how you would want to like start hinting at those things, or maybe at the end of the Cataclysm, there's some story beats that hint at what's coming next. And maybe when the event is over, after they kind of do a wrap up and say, hey, this is, what we learned. This is what's coming next. This is when you can, I mean, maybe we get another roadmap at the end of this, because if we don't get a roadmap and we don't know where we're going, that'll be kind of a bummer. So maybe that's what they do. Maybe they introduce us to the new face of Anthem now that Ben's gone. And they say, hey, this is where we're going next. This is what we've been working on. I hope that I imagine that they've been working on something. I can't imagine they haven't been working on anything. That would be a bummer. But so
Yeah.
I mean, it's and the same thing with Anthem that we've said a bunch of times is that all these dominoes, you kind of have to put all these pieces together before you can make an opinion, because it's hard to make an opinion based on one thing, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't see the full picture. And as much as we would like to, we just don't. So we speculate. All right. So I actually want to talk to you guys about the weapons. So we've had 9 new weapons. We've got 3 new Voltcasters, 3 new Blade Slingers, and 3 new, what are the other ones called? We have
Pulse accelerators.
Pulse accelerators. So
Yeah.
Mike, you have had a chance to play with a couple of them. Some of them in their legendary form, some of them in their masterwork form.
Correct.
Do you have a favorite already?
I do. My favorites are the blade slingers.
What about the Blade
That's what they're
Slingers?
called, right?
Julius
Yeah,
agrees
just-
with you. That's what his favorite is.
Do what?
Julius agrees with you in chat on YouTube.
Yeah, I agree with Julius. They're just fun because they're not something that I've used in any other game. I mean, I've had pulse accelerators where it's a beam, or no, so the pulse accelerators are you charge it and then it shoots your things, and then the what's the other one?
The Voltcasters?
The Voltcasters, yeah, where they just kind of shoots the beam. Like I don't really like those very much. They're not the play style that I want. But the blade slingers, they're just fun. It's because I picture building a gun in my workshop using circular saw blades, and I get to spin them and throw them at things, and they bounce around and they hit stuff. Like that's just cool to me. They make a cool sound. They look cool. I really like the blade slingers. They're fun. Get a blade slinger.
Get a Blade Slinger. I actually
At
have all of them except
bladeslinger.com.
one at bladeslinger.com. I bet there's a bladeslinger.com. How much you want to bet if I look up Blade Slinger?
That might be dangerous to go to their website.
Yeah, it might be dangerous. Don't.
It's actually for sale, bladeslinger.com. So if you want bladeslinger.com, you can actually go buy it. So Mike, jump on this and you can make your website.
We should totally buy bladeslinger.com.
I'll reserve it. Devin, do you have a favorite weapon? And is it reserved on the internet?
So my favorite weapon in the PTS was the Gravedigger, because it was super overpowered and just would melt everything. Right now I'm using Jara's Wrath because that's the only legendary weapon that I received out of all the boxes so far. I got plenty of others, but lots of dupes, and they're only masterworks, so they're useless. And
Well, that's just rude to say about the Masterworks. How do you think they feel when you call them useless like that?
they're inferior weapons and products, so I don't know what to
Okay.
tell you. I mean, they're fun to play around with. If you haven't had a chance to play with them, it's fun. But when you're already your weapons that you're using are above those levels, it gives me zero reason to use them, except to just check them out, right? So until they're legendary and a higher level than the weapons I already have that are legendary, there's no point of using them. It's tough to say because I want to use them. I want to be able to have the new weapons be useful to me, but they're just not because of the way their loot system is implemented. And so,
So this is where a working crafting system would work, right? If you've got these masterwork blueprints and you're able to like go up to legendary via some kind of feat, so many kills plus so many materials, I think that's what the crafting system should look like. That's just
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely help if you were able to craft legendary weapons, whether it's like, hey, like you said, I've used this weapon for so long, I know how it works, I can make my own, and then, scrapping legendaries that aren't worth much, you can get those embers and you can start crafting those also. So yeah, I think there's a couple things that I think would go a long way to helping the system how it is right now. But first, I've actually been able to play with 8 of the 9, because I have 8 legendaries. I have one of each except for one of the blade slingers. I got really lucky in some of the boxes that I opened. I opened 20 boxes this morning, and I got 4 legendaries out of it, of weapons that I did not have before, and some of them
That's
actually had
some
really good
horse
rolls.
right there.
So I got really lucky. So a lot of people have been talking about Jara's Wrath in chat. Jara's Wrath is I don't know why it's overpowered. In the PTS, it definitely was not.
No, it
it
wasn't.
There was a video on the PTS of someone saying, hey, if you feather the trigger using Jara's Wrath instead of just holding it down, for some reason it does more damage. So I've been doing that, and it does a ridiculous amount of damage. I was doing Heart of Rage. I did Heart of Rage Grandmaster 3 today just to kind of see. And as you're fighting the monitor, if you do that, it's almost like the game does not calculate your damage fast enough. And I was throwing up a bunch of zeros on the monitor as his health was going down, just because I think it was like, hey, you're doing too much damage. What's going on here? So that thing is super powerful. And at first glance, and I think it's really hard to tell when you look at the actual stats of a weapon. It'll say, damage 15,432 or whatever. But I don't know how those numbers even translate to the damage that weapon actually outputs. It's
Right.
almost like you just have to try it, and you have to see what the numbers do. You have to set up a test case and be like, all right, I'm going to go GM3. I'm going to go fight the monitor. It's pretty easy to get to. And I'm going to track what the damage does. Because looking at the damage numbers on the weapon itself, I don't know if that tells us really anything other than, oh, that's green, that's red. But with the
You
inscriptions,
can't
we're
even
going
trust
in.
those anyways, so they don't.
Yeah.
That's not proper anyway. So
Yeah. So there's a couple other. I think the Rainmaker actually has been doing a lot of damage for me. Also, I need to spend a lot of time testing these, just because usually when you're like, all right, I'm going to go in GM3 Cataclysm, you don't feel like you have a lot of time to test because it's a timed event, and 3 other people like are counting on you to pull your weight to get more crystals. So I don't know if it's a hard. Let's see, what's hard? You know what's hard. It's hard to figure out a time when you can like actually test these weapons and feel like, all right, I'm getting something out of it, because you just kind of want to run the Cataclysm and you want to earn those crystals. So I've got to do a lot more testing, but I'm actually having a lot of fun with the weapons. I'm having a good time with them. But to Devon's point, and this is something that we've been talking about a lot. Last week, we talked a lot about the war chest and how we think like the gear chest, the port chest, because those aren't javelin specific, those drop rates aren't very player friendly, and it leaves a lot to be desired. So as you go into this week, when we have the weapon chest, I mean, it's nice because guess what? Weapons, you can equip any of the weapons across all the javelins, and you can probably get something out of it. It's going to increase the power level of every javelin, regardless of which one you main. So that takes a lot of the sting out of opening a legendary that you can't use, because this one you can use all the time. So there's been a lot of variance, and we've kind of deducted from looking at, math on Reddit, math on Twitter, that there's about an 8 to 10% drop rate on these. I'm guessing it's probably a 10% just to have a nice even number. So it's a 10% drop rate to get a legendary. But because of the way RNG works, there's pretty large variances, even from my what is that? 20%? I got a 20% drop rate.
Yeah.
So I got a 20% drop rate this morning, and we have people in our Discord that have been saying that out of 200 boxes, they've only gotten 3. So that's a pretty terrible drop rate. What, that's like 1.5. I'm sure if they continue to open up to 1,000 boxes, eventually that would even out. But because we're human and we have emotion, like, a computer would say, yeah, eventually this will work out to 10%. And that's perfect because that's what it's supposed to do. But as a human, you're like, okay, this sucks because I spent all this time. I've opened 200 boxes. I've only got 3 legendaries. That hits you hard. And it's like, have I been wasting my time?
it's just
And the
RNG,
answer is,
Steven. Just RNG.
And when people say it's just RNG, like, you know what? There's a developer behind the screen controlling those numbers. They can say, okay, you know what? And Hearthstone does this, Diablo does this. They have a pity timer. And Hearthstone, you know what? You can open 40 packs of Hearthstone cards. If you don't get a legendary card, guess what? You're guaranteed one on that 40th pack. You will get a legendary no matter what. and it makes it so much better for the player knowing that, okay, if I don't get one now, I'm eventually going to get one. And when you hit that timer resets, right?
Yep.
But you still have the option and you still have the opportunity with the RNG, you still have that percentage chance of getting another legendary right after that. You know, it's not like, okay, well, you got one 40 packs ago, you're not going to get one until another 40. It doesn't work like that. There's a pit timer saying if you did not get it this time, you know, that percentage chance increases just a tiny bit each time until it's like, all right, 100% chance, here's your box. I think if they did that, you know, 15, 20 boxes in the war chest to get a legendary, that would go such a long way in the player experience. Because it's not just opening box after box after box and be like, come on, when is this going to happen? And then, you know what? I ran out of stuff. I've got to go back into the Cataclysm. And it all it does is really
Well, see,
hurt.
but with there, Steve, is that when you stop, then your probability resets, right? You know, so it's this cycle. If you don't have enough crystals and you don't get a legendary, you go back in, then you start back at the beginning where you don't have enough crystals, and it's really terrible.
Well, and I think a pity timer would go a long way in improving this experience. And this,
I
it's
agree.
not even something that's like, you know what, hey, like I know maybe, you know, our suggestion of Javelin specific war chest is 2 out there. I'm not a developer. I don't know. I always assume this takes one developer like an hour to do on a Tuesday, right? That's just my assumption as someone that all I do is consume the product. Like, you know, just, I don't know, make an algorithm that says, hey, if you haven't got one in 40 boxes, in 20 boxes, here's a legendary. And that way that player is like, okay, guess what? I know I'm going to get something. I have a chance of getting a legendary. There's a smaller chance that it's, you know, a god roll or, you know, a decent roll. So it's not like saying, okay, I'm going to get all these, I'm going to be done, because there's still such variance in the inscriptions of getting a good legendary, getting an okay legendary, or getting that one that's just like completely melting face and all of a sudden you're soloing Grandmaster 3 by yourself, right?
Right.
So it's just more player friendly, and I suggest to everyone that listens, everyone that's like, man, I wish this was different, you know, go to their feedback forums. The only
them
way
know.
that they are going to change anything is if they hear from the players and they read that feedback. Like, we can post, and we've posted a bunch of this stuff on there, and we've written in and we've, you know, given our feedback. But if we're the, you know, and we're not the only ones saying it, but if we're the only ones writing in, it doesn't get heard as much. So I encourage you, use their forums, write in, you know, tell your grandmother to write in also. And because if they don't hear it, if they don't hear the grievances, if it's just, you know, an echo chamber of positivity on the show, there's things that are less likely to change, I guess.
It's not that.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how like we can best enact change in things that we want to see improve. But, and I guess
Well,
that's really the only
I think that's how you do it, Steve. You do it in a constructive way. You don't state it, you know, you have to be a little bit diplomatic about it because you don't just want to hear complaining and I think this is terrible, you should fix it. I mean, offer a solution, be constructive. There's no reason to call names. There's no reason to you know, accuse anyone of cheating us out of something, because that's not helpful. We can be an echo chamber of positivity, and we can positively critique a game and say this is really fun here, but I think this could be different here and would increase my experience this way. Because right now, when you open 150 boxes, you don't want to come back because there's no reward there. And so it can be done and it should be done, but in a positive way.
Yep, I agree. Devin, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I've said my fill. You know, I'm having a good time. The boxes make it not fun, but when I'm playing the game, it's a fun game. You know, we just want it to be better. You know, so.
Yep, and that's all we want. I think that's all the community wants. And you know what? If someone doesn't ask for it, then it won't change, right? So we're going to
Right.
be the people that continue to bang that drum. And you know what? The Cataclysm is a great event. And you know, there's a couple things on the edges that kind of like take a little bit of that fun out of there. I'm interested to see if they're going to do more for the people that hit the top of the leaderboards than just putting them on the community cortex. I think it was pretty cool. It would be pretty cool if somehow, somewhere, after the Cataclysm ends, if they're able to put people's names in the game, for the Cataclysm. I don't know if they could put it on like Jarl's Wall, where there's a bunch of people that have died to a bunch of different creatures or whatever in there in the
Oh, yeah.
Enclave.
That'd
It would
be a
be
cool
pretty cool.
spot.
Yeah, if they replace some of those little readings in there with the people's names that have hit those leaderboards, because I think the first 2 weeks it's the same PlayStation group has completed it and got the high score for 2 weeks in a row. So it'd be really cool if they shouted out to those people that did that, because this is their big event. The leaderboards were a big thing. If they immortalize them somewhere in the game, I think that would be pretty rad. So, all right,
Word.
I think that is it for. Unless, do we want to talk about ciphers? Do you guys want me to talk about ciphers a little bit? I mean, we could save it till next show. Actually, we're gonna have a guest on next show. I think. I will double check, but I think we're gonna have a guest come on next show.
We
I
could
think,
talk to the guest about ciphers. I just bit my tongue.
Shapers.
I just bit my tongue and it hurt really bad.
I will not say who it is, because the last couple times I said that we're going to have a guest, that somehow ended up falling through,
Not
unfortunately.
happening.
So we are
Mhm.
going to have a guest, I hope. And I guess if it happens, it happens. If not, then I won't be called a liar. So we'll talk about ciphers later. But I'll say this one thing about the ciphers, that because I really like the lore. So I am almost done copying down the entire Cortex into a database that is searchable and is usable. I am so close to being done. The only thing I have left are the gear pieces, but I don't know if I want to do all the gear pieces. I don't know if it's that important to put all the gear in that. Maybe I'll outsource that. Maybe I'll have someone else do that. But
Nice.
anyway, ciphers, there was a cipher revolution, right? So in the early days, when ciphers were first discovered, first it was a little girl, right? She started showing powers, reading people's minds, knowing what people are talking about, started freaking people out, right?
She's a witch. She's a witch. Burn her.
Exactly. Like imagine, Mike, you have a 10-year-old kid. All of a sudden he's like reading your thoughts and reading your mind, and you can't stop him. Like, what would you do, right? If he started doing that?
Black.
I don't know what I would do. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
So people, of course, were freaking out. They're like, what do we do? So, and this was the daughter of an engineer. So a bunch of arcanists were like, well, how about we take her, we study her? I mean, this was like the Professor X, right? This is the
Right.
first mutant that they found. This is Professor X can control things. So like, we got to figure out what to do. They start doing tests. They like, she starts connecting with the Anthem of Creation. And we all know like the Anthem of Creation, like when Faye was tapped in at the end, we almost lost Faye to the Anthem, right? She had full bore. She was in it. If she was a EA Sport, she was in the game. So she's tapped into the Anthem of Creation. We almost lose her. And like, I don't know how she was saved. Halleck saved him because it's Halleck, and we all know who Halleck is. Halleck is now a glorified weatherman, watching out for the storm. But whatever. So anyway, the first ever cipher gets lost in the Anthem of Creation. They were trying to figure out what she could do, what she couldn't do, and they just took it right to the edge, and she was lost into the Anthem, never to be seen from again. A lot of ciphers that go into the Anthem have claimed that they have seen the first cipher there, kind of ushering them back if they get too far, if they start hearing the song of the Anthem. They've a couple ciphers have said, hey, the cipher was here, the first cipher guided us back, right? So then we start hearing all kinds of reports about other ciphers that have been popping up. So they create a school. Like, we need to train these people. We need to get them to learn, how to communicate. This is going to change. It changes a ton. It changes the way people communicate. It changes the way freelancers let's see, we've got the freelancers, and then we've got the sentinels, and we've got the paladins. It changes the way that they go out and do their business because it's so much safer if a freelancer has a cipher in their head to tell them, hey, this is really dangerous, or hey, this is where this bomb is going to lie, or hey, there's an echo over here. So ciphers change everything. Ciphers start making the amplifier chair, start being able to get that signal out a lot farther. And then there is a cipher revolution because ciphers' rights were being taken advantage of, and they didn't like that. and they just kind of like brush over this whole cipher revolution that we have. There's like one mention of it in the entire cortex, then it's completely gone. Like, what kind of revolution was this where like ciphers like on strike and they just stopped helping people? If that happened, then communication between all the outposts probably died. Being able to fix things in the field, that was gone. I mean, take like this. It's like if all of our cell phones stopped working. I mean, that's really what it's like. Your cell phone stopped working for a day. What happens to the world if that happens?
Oh,
Mike,
a lot of people would stop, would not know how to live.
People would go crazy. The world would end. I don't know if the world would end, but people would lose their minds.
Yeah, I'm like losing my mind just thinking about it. And my phone's like just right here. But so, I mean, in that sense, like if the ciphers stopped, that's what would happen. I mean, that's a bunch of people would die. Freelancers would be dying, Sentinels would be dying because there's no way to, hey, there's an Ursix right behind you. Didn't know if you knew that. So anyway, so they start creating these schools. I really want to know more about the revolution and actually like how that happened, what happened. And then after that, they get expanded rights. They get freedom to choose their abilities and how they were used. I'm guessing.
Do they get a vote also? Or
I don't know. You know what? what's scary though, Devon, is like, the ciphers could like rig anything, right? They could like, if someone has a link, because the cipher has to have a link, they have to have a code in order to talk to people. But these are like super powerful people that can affect change. They can probably make people see things, unfortunately, just like the Monitor was able to project himself, like Force Ghost himself, wherever he was from. And then we walk through it and we say that famous line, get glitched, right? That was
glitched.
So then they start making schools, right? They start like training people how to do this. Faye went to like the Harvard of Cipher School and she got super bored, and that's why she ended up in Fort Tarsus, because she wanted some adventure. Owen went to like the community.
I want adventure in the great wide somewhere.
Wow.
I wanted more than I can tell. Sorry.
No, I was going to let you finish. I wasn't going to interrupt.
No, I'm done.
Okay. So, and then Owen goes to the community college of Cipher School. He's like, whatever he does, and betrays us. Like, curse, you're inevitable. So he betrays us. And, the ciphers have also been reported.
Did he betray us, or did we betray him?
Both. So ciphers have been reported of getting stronger each and every generation. They're able to project their influence farther and farther. So ciphers are getting stronger, and it's just helping everyone. So you know what? Ciphers are cool. Ciphers, unfortunately, only some of them can be Lancers/ciphers. The Monitors, that's a group of people from the Dominion that are able to do that. Some ciphers have tried, just like Owen. He tried to fly a javelin. That did not work because of sensory overload. It's hard to fly a javelin when you can, hear the beat of a butterfly's wing 400 kilometers away. So anyway, ciphers are really interesting. We'll do a deeper dive into ciphers if that wasn't
deeper
deep
dive.
Enough. Yeah, this was just like scratching.
This was a little bit.
So sorry, I rambled on. I really like the lore of Anthem as I read more and more. Yeah, did you not know? I can talk to you more about it. Let me tell you about.
There's this mute button here. Hold on.
Nice.
There is a mute button. So I will end this because I've been rambling on too long about the ciphers, which are cool. I don't know how they can fix radios out in the field without us touching them, but they can. So whatever. So guys, freelancers, everyone, ciphers, freelancers, sentinels, all you people, thank you for tuning in to episode 101, the episode where we just finally just give up and say whatever we want. All right. You can find us at Freelancer Codex.
We say whatever we want every episode. What are you talking about?
It's true. So stop talking while I'm talking, Devon. So you can go, if you want to write into the show, you can do that at freelancercodex@gmail.com. Send us an email. You can call into the show and leave us a sweet voicemail like a cipher would leave you. And you can do that at 505-386-7917. And until next time, I think there is still a cataclysm on the horizon, and we will see you on the other side.
Peace.
Later.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter at Freelancer Codex, on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or through email at freelancercodex@gmail.com. Join the Discord through the link provided at freelancercodex.com. Our show will always be free, but But if you'd like to send some support, you may do so at patreon.com/freelancercodex. Our individual Twitter handles are at Stephen Lamson, at mlamson25, at Neverfear, and at JD the Joke Dealer. Freelancers, it's time to get to work.